Welcome today to the journey down the path of least expectance. So I'm your host, Michaela Batten, and I hope that everyone is sitting down and at least settled somewhere and ready to really dive into today's episode with me, because our guest is going to take us on a wild ride. The best ride possible, trust me. I know you're going to walk away from today's episode with so many takeaways. And not only just a better understanding of yourself, but I really feel like a better understanding of the world we live in. And just really how everything is so connected and how we are connected. And I'm filled with so much joy, honestly, to bring you the one and only, the Blonde Priestess, Miss Christina. So she's one of the most vibrant, light, radiates warmth and love. And I feel like you're just such a nurturing spirit. So motherly, really. I mean, so motherly. You hold so much space for everyone. It's so obvious. You are so present in every conversation. And really, the energy is just with you wherever you go. So you unlock secrets to stars, human design, gene keys, and so much more. But here's the deal. Your journey didn't start out on really such a magical path. Far from it, probably. I'm not sure the whole journey. We're going to find out today. I'm so excited to be here with you. The Blonde Priestess. We want to hear about how you moved to LA to pursue fashion and how you ended up back here in your hometown fulfilling this life of coaching and inspiring. So here we go. Everyone welcome Christina, the Blonde Priestess.
Oh, thanks. Are we going to start with tears? Because that was so beautiful.
I know. I'm sorry. I get really carried away because I really like everyone to just have this picture of who you are. And most of the time, you guys won't say that about yourself. And it's so important to kind of set the picture of who you are. And that really is so true. I mean, you're so nurturing and caring and loving, and that's why the work you're doing is actually working. But we can get to all of that later. So let me let you talk, because I've said enough. I want you to tell us about your path of least expectance, as far back as you want to go, to kind of, and it can be quick, really quick, just I want to know how you got to where you were to just kind of where we are now, and then we can really dive into it.
I love it. Let's go on a little journey. This is fun because in my coaching now, I do take clients back to the past because there is such importance in the journey and there's so many lessons that can be extracted from it. So
it's a big game of connect the dots. That's all our life is.
Yeah. And pattern recognition. I was just telling a client today about how I love pattern recognition. It's a form of psychology to see where were you and what progressed you to lead to the point where you're at now. So it's actually really interesting. I was contemplating this just the other day, and I used to tell my mom, this was the commercial that was very popular back in the 90s. It was a commercial they'd put on for makeup, for CoverGirl makeup. And their tagline was easy breezy, beautiful CoverGirl.
Yes,
and you'd see this beautiful, easy breezy, beautiful CoverGirl in the wind with her, flowers and all of that. And that was me. That was what I wanted to be. That's the thing that really encompassed the feeling that I wanted to portray in life. But the way that I approached it was from a very practical meat suit. I always refer to like our 3D plane, like in my meat suit.
Oh, that's so good. My meat suit, Lady Gaga, hello.
Yes, exactly. So I kind of approached that pursuit in that way. So it was beauty and style and fashion and my physical body in all ways, wanting to mold it into this perfect version so that I could achieve that feeling that I saw in that commercial that, that I was conditioned to want. And, through that journey, I really found myself, going through a path of least expectancy for sure, and working with a lot of athletics, and I was working with my body in that way, trying to attain this vision. I went into modeling. I was doing a lot of that, and I went into pageants as well. Not a lot of people know that, but I went into beauty pageants, and
I love this.
Yes.
I was the 1999 North Carolina Spot Festival princess. So listen, yeah, it was a big deal. So yeah.
I didn't even place at the Azalea Festival. It was like top 15. Nope, didn't make it. And yet the dream did not die there.
No, we got to keep it alive. Right.
Keep it alive. So I actually went to compete in a very serious pageant.
I didn't know this.
So it's the one that gets aired eventually. Once they have all the state winners, it's the one that gets aired on TV. And, Miss USA, Miss America is about talent. Miss USA is not about talent. And that was my jam. So I never actually placed either on that. And I kind of kept going at it and just progressively got more and more dissatisfied, and but still had a desire and a passion for fashion. And I loved being able to express myself through those things. I loved how it could change your mood, what you're wearing. I thought that was really powerful. Yeah. And so I had a really interesting conversation with my mom, and she saw me very dissatisfied and kind of failing at the pageants in a way, not finding the success I wanted anyway from it. And I was going to community college, and just directionlessness was emanating from me. And she sat down with me and she was like, Christina, just think about what you like. What do you like to do? And at that point, and I know many people can relate to it, you don't even know what you like when you get that frustrated and that stuck. And so I really just got down to the bones of it. And she's like, you've always loved clothes. You've always loved fashion and expressing yourself. You've been the one that got made fun of in high school for wearing little high heels when everyone was in their Vans. And I wanted to be a woman. I wanted to be feminine. I love Marilyn Monroe. And I just loved this way you could express this beauty with all these cool tools we have, like heels and,
Right.
And she was right. She kind of reflected that back to me. And I was like, I do. And she was like, why don't you look in LA? Why don't you look at New York and see if there's a program, and just so you can learn and then see where that goes. And sure enough, it was that day. I sat on my grandma's couch feeling like super hopeless. Right. And I found FITM in Los Angeles and connected with an advisor instantly. And everything just started to feel like green lights from there. I felt like something coming alive in my belly.
So crazy to make a point quickly that, hey, most of our really great journeys start with a terrible, discouraging, on your couch from grandma's house beginning. So I just feel like that's so good to reiterate to everyone, Yeah. I mean, how many times I've said it on this podcast, but it's so true. Those amazing beginnings usually don't start out as phenomenal beginnings. So no, if you're in that comfortable spot right now, better days are coming.
Yes.
I mean, we don't know when. Yes. It could be a couple of years, but they're coming.
Yes. And I think the things that led up to that was asking questions about, like, realizing I'm in an uncomfortable state and that it doesn't have to always be this way. I think on some level, I knew that wasn't right. That was not my purpose to suffer. And so I hope everyone can remember that as well, because sometimes you can get so stuck in the suffering. You're like, well, this is just what my life is about. Maybe it's not others, but it is mine. And so it's important to hold that hope and to take the hope and let it question your journey. And that'll lead you, I think, to some breadcrumbs. And that was definitely the case for me. But at the same time, you nailed it. You can't predict your breakthrough, because me and my mom had many conversations like that. And it just took the right combination of me being hopeless enough and her being like patient enough. And we just connected and clicked. And it was like lightning bolt moment. And
here it is. I pinned this for you. You cannot prevent a breakdown, and you cannot force a breakthrough. Your own words you said the other day. And I literally saved it because I thought,
oh, yes.
Wow. Amazing.
Wow. Thank you for that. I love that one too. I didn't know if a lot of people would resonate with that, but yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. So you moved to LA, you do FITM, you love it?
Yep.
You love it.
I loved it. Got into styling, was working at E-News, was working for stylists that would style red carpet celebrities, was doing the whole thing, doing the damn thing. Thriving in that way. Right. Thriving career wise. And the fashion felt really good. There was a karmic connection that happened with a friend that I got on the magazine board for the fashion school, and I was doing the styling there, and she was doing the art directing. And I have to give her a lot of credit, because she actually introduced me to astrology. And that's where, really things started to shift. Of course, I had read my horoscopes in every single magazine I ever had.
Right.
It's very light, easy. They say similar things, and but it was interesting. I knew something else was at work, and I was always pretty intuitive, but I'd never really studied it. And she was the first one that ran my chart for me. She told me about my moon sign. She kind of started to make some things make sense for me in that way. And from then on, I had this like fire in my belly. I'd be in an elevator with a stranger, and I was like, "What's your birthday?"
Right.
Doing free birth chart readings for so long
Because
and
it lit
just,
you up and you just wanted to keep doing it. It was that little thing inside of you that was like, I don't even
yeah,
care. This is so fun. I want to do more of it. And I don't care if
yes,
it's keeping me up at night after my job because this is what I'm enjoying.
exactly. And that is not cliche. It's actually true. If you
Yes.
haven't felt that feeling, you just haven't found the thing yet. Because it's something that you read in your lunch breaks, you're researching it, you're
Mm.
obsessively wanting to dig in.
No, it's so true though. It's so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. So I'm very grateful also. I know I needed to be positioned in LA, and I know I had to go to that school and all the sequence of events in order for that divine meeting to happen, because what has unfolded in my business now wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had that key piece of the puzzle. And there was a huge journey that awareness took me on with myself, because as you can imagine, probably already from my story, being so focused on the meat suit and so focused on what other people perceive of it, the judgment, right? My job as a creative director and a stylist was literally to judge the shot and judge every aspect of it. Did we get the shot? So that judgment, of course, was reflected on myself. And
Right.
that was deep. That was where the deep work, the shadow, what we call shadow work, was that side of myself that didn't accept me.
Oh, I don't know if
And
I've ever really heard that shadow work.
yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Oh
great.
yeah. That's that, your little inner dark places that you don't really show a lot of people, and you kind of hide with a smile, and only really you and maybe a few people know about it.
Right.
Yeah. And usually you have to get to the place to address it when it starts to affect your outer world. And that was definitely the case for me. I started to really feel the contempt I had towards myself and not acceptance towards myself getting reflected in my relationships to others. And it was extremely isolating. So there was another pivotal moment that came where I was so sick of my own shit, basically.
Right. You were done. You were
I was
done.
done.
And
Yeah.
sometimes that's what it takes, unfortunately, for us to reach that next milestone. We're just like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm moving on.
I actually, what do you think about this? But I think you have to get there before you change.
I mean, a lot of times, yes, I really do. And sometimes I think it's easier than others. Like sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, okay, I'm gonna give it up, and it's gonna be hard. And sometimes it's like dissecting pieces
Yes.
off of you. I mean, everybody's
Yes.
experience is so different. But yeah, no, totally.
Yes. When you're really ready to let go of some serious patterns, you got to be at your breaking point in some ways, especially if you're like a type A strong-willed person.
Right. And here's not to skip ahead, but so here's what I
Yeah.
love about the work you're doing. So, do
Yeah.
you want to quickly say in your own words? So,
Yeah.
well, let me let you finish quickly. So, you're in LA. What brought you finally back to Wilmington, your hometown?
Oh, so yeah, I mean, fast forward pretty quickly. That progressed into me learning more spirituality, learning about tarot, learning, and then eventually starting my own business in LA, where I was offering proper coaching through astrology and through tarot, and meditation as well. And then what brought me back to LA, honestly, I don't even know if I've told you this, but it was 2020. It was summer 2020, and LA was locked up like, yeah, like prison,
Yeah. No.
basically.
Yes. Totally.
I think anyone that was there knows that it,
Those
it was
big
it was
cities.
literally
Mm-hmm.
prison. Yeah. So it was like almost like I was a bird in a cage, and my wings were like dying to expand. And a couple rugs got pulled out from under my feet as well. My corporate job, right before COVID actually kind of dissolved away. And then a few other things too, some turbulence with roommates and landlord, and just, you know what it was?
So the universe finally took over and said,
Yes.
I'm going to take everything away from you until you can just listen to what I'm trying to give you.
that's the
And I
proverbial
learned that
like
from
bird.
you.
Yeah, boot in the ass. Exactly. The
Yeah.
universe is like, okay, you didn't get the signs. Let's go.
So I'll show
So
you. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'll show you, and just let go, surrender. So I do I do encourage people to surrender quicker. It'll be a little less traumatic, but that's
Right.
what brought me back here. And there was a few months as well where I felt very like, blowing in the wind. I wasn't fully letting go of LA. I wasn't fully ready to be back here because I had said so many times I wouldn't be back here in North Carolina, but it didn't take long until things started to feel really, really good. And I could see the momentum was moving in the right direction. And I did end up having another trip where I went and gave LA like a little chance. And then it ended up
Right.
being like a really nice goodbye, where I was like, okay, yeah, good
But
choice.
you knew.
Yeah, it got worse. Yeah, it really got worse there. And I
Okay.
was like, okay, cool.
The
So
universe
yeah,
said you're gonna try me one more time. It's like
yeah.
one, okay, all right, Christina, one. Let's do it one more time.
Do you know the universe is so generous? It's like it understands our human nature, and I do believe that the universe can be very patient with us, but at a certain point, sometimes we need a little bit of a harshness to make the move.
So this is what I going back to what I interrupted you for earlier. I'm
Yep.
sorry, but what I just think it's so beautiful with the work that you do. So like I said, you do everything from human design. You read, tarot cards. You do so much more. You basically can do a coaching approach to someone's life
Yeah.
based on what you can read, right? And I may be saying it wrong, and I apologize. Correct me if not. But
You nailed
what's
it.
so great is you're able to use these tools that you've learned and you're able to help people through these struggles. And I think that that's so beautiful. So tell me a little bit more about your work. Tell me about all your woo woo that you do.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's so funny. I think a lot of people are really deeply intuitive and they don't really know what to do with their gifts. And I feel that the systems like astrology and human design help give a container to help them express their gifts as well and learn more about themselves. One of the common themes in my work when I work with a client, and you said it perfectly, they'll come in almost for what I call a priestess session, but it's essentially a coaching session. It's therapy with the stars. It's coming in and we have your charts, we have the cards, and I intuitively work with the client to see what their higher guides are wanting them to be presented with in that moment, whether it's to go into a chart with their human design or astrology, or if it's cards, or if it's really just for me to hold space and let them be heard.
Mm-hmm.
So I try my very best to get out of the way and just let spirit work through me and let me know what to do. The client will also let me know what needs to be done as well. And you can, when I feel that mother energy. Thank you so much for reflecting that back to me, because that's been something I've really been wanting to embody when a client comes in. I just want them to feel held and to feel like they can unapologetically talk and speak about anything they need to. But the human design and the astrology are great tools to help you learn about you, learn about your soul path, your career path, how you love, how you work. It's a well of knowledge, and we've just tipped the iceberg with your stuff, but yeah.
I know we keep saying we need to do more. So basically, for anyone who's listening who knows nothing about human design, which was totally me a couple months ago, I was going to a human design reading with Christina, and I knew Christina, but I had never done any of this before, and so I kind of did a little quick search, and I started reading about it, and I was like, this is so interesting. It has nothing to do with you coming in and saying, I predict that you're going to do this in 2025, right? It has nothing to do with you predicting or foreseeing or looking in a crystal ball. It has nothing to do with that. And I think that's probably, obviously, your first misconception when people come in. You sit down, we give you where we were born, at what time and when, and you can read how we entered this world, what path we came into.
Yes.
And that's what's so great, is because all of these things that we were put into alignment with when we were born, all you're doing is saying, hey, this is probably what's going to work more for you. You make the decisions, but here is what's going to really be best for your design.
Yep. I always say, I'm just reminding you. I'm just reminding you of what you know.
Yes.
And you might have forgotten through the conditioning of the world or your parents or, adults that were guiding you that did the best they could, but weren't designed like you. And so they parented you probably based on how they were parented or how they would want to have been parented. And usually that misses the mark. So I always treat it like that. And it's really beautiful. You experienced this too. And I know I did when I first explored human design and studied in London under my teacher. It was this feeling that I was seen. My body came alive in certain parts as I was being reminded of my chart. And it's a very visceral experience.
You know what I tell people too? It's almost like clarity. Like it's the things you said that you knew, that you were born with all along, that you've always felt somewhere deep down inside, but this clarity, you say words, you say things, you say, notions, and all of a sudden it clicks with me, and I'm like, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like you're not making any grand gestures of knowledge, but you're just saying things that click, and the clarity really helps people get from point A to point B. And something, I don't know if you how much you've ever really talked on this, but I know you have before, and I'm hoping you can maybe talk some more, because I think this is really beautiful with human design and stars and all of that. So tell me, you know when people say you live in flow? Like you
Yeah.
live in a flow, you get in a flow. Can you
Mm-hmm.
explain that? Because I think that theory is so beautiful, and I can't explain it. But I think that what I've been reading and learning about is like when you get into the flow, everything happens. Can you like
Mm.
dive a little bit more into that?
Oh God, there's so many layers to
I
that.
know, I know.
But I no, don't be
I
sorry, because
asked you the hard question. I don't want to do
this
it.
yeah, you're like, I don't know where to begin. Well, me neither. No, but I feel like one of the first things is notice when you're out of flow. And then that's going to be a great indicator. Okay, I'm frustrated, I'm angry. And we talk about the not selves in human design. Not selves are themes that let you know you're out of alignment. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's bitterness, maybe it's frustration. So when that happens, you can assume you're out of flow. So it's a great time to just review life and take a look at where have I committed my energy that I didn't want to, etc. But for me, flow feels like joy. It feels like ease. It feels like, if you're familiar with Abraham Hicks, she goes on these like flow rampages, she calls them. And it's where you and I are just to sit together and just flow on how great we feel doing this and how lit up we are and how excited to have this message go to the right ears and inspire them to just get on that vibration. And already you can feel, if we were to continue that and go back and forth with each other, we would be vibing so high.
Mm-hmm.
So our language is one of the biggest keys to get us in flow. And to tie it back into my story, when I first found astrology, I was out of flow because of the way I spoke to myself. I would walk past a mirror and criticize myself. I'd look down at myself and criticize myself. I would review my life and I didn't like things about myself. I felt out of flow, and I continued to repeat that vibration by the way I spoke to myself and the way I spoke to others and spoke, about my situation. So I think for me, flow always equates to language. How are you talking to yourself? How are you talking to others? How do you share your experiences with life? So
Which goes back to gratitude, right? Which is like
yeah,
the key. I
yeah.
feel like nowadays it's thrown around like popsicles, like gratitude,
Mm?
gratitude, gratitude. Do you have a gratitude journal? But it really is so important. And I don't have a gratitude journal, but what I do find myself when things aren't going my way, I'll simply switch around and say, okay, the narrative is, I'm getting to do this. I'm getting to be here. I'm grateful that I have this, even though I have this that I'm not grateful for. I'm grateful for the,
It's beautiful.
that, like you
The,
said, the narrative, whether it's
and
your inner narrative.
totally. And I love that little, what's called like a safety blanket line. So if you're going on a negative rampage, we all do it. We all are like, oh, I got a parking ticket, and like this guy gave me a parking ticket last week. And then what you do to save this vibration, because right now I'm about to go on a downward spiral.
Tell me.
You can say, but I have to say, I'm really grateful that I have a car that takes me from point A to point B. I have to say, I'm really grateful, for something, literally anything to turn your vibration around. It's like a safety blanket statement.
Mm-hmm.
So I would really highly recommend people use that. If you just catch yourself going on a negative thing, just search for anything. You like, I have to say, I'm really grateful that I was able to work with clients at my office while I got a parking ticket, just
Right.
turn it around,
Because nothing you can do can change what happened.
It's done.
Living in that past is never going to change the future.
Just create more.
It's just, you can only create a greater depth of that unsatisfaction and that anger. So, I mean, you're never going to go back and change that ticket. You have it. I mean, you can go fight it. Maybe you can, but, you can spend your time doing something way better than that.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
So I want you to talk more about what you're doing right now. So you're doing these gratitudes circles online.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So tell me more about that experience.
Oh gosh, we did round 4 or 5. It was just recently. We just had a closing ceremony here at my office with a beautiful sound bath, and the women did an incredible job. It ended up being women, but it doesn't have to be women only. And we follow along with the book, The Magic. And it's a 28-day gratitude practice. And I lead it and I embellish with my own experiences. And I send out audios every morning, and they get to wake up with these practices and me kind of reading through them with them. And then of course we have accountability every week and a little chat. And there's been people that, from Ireland and California that are now besties and have have been able to support each other through their journeys because they have maybe similar situations, but didn't know each other until they had gotten into the gratitude circle. And it's things like that that really remind me of why I do what I do. It's to connect people and to let them know they're not alone in their journey, because it can get quite isolating if you are on a self-improvement journey, which you probably are being here in this space listening.
Right. And if not, get on one because it's great.
Yeah, it's the greatest. Get on the flow.
Get in
Yeah.
So now you talked about within this, I saw you talking about with gratitude, and you were talking about the difference between fear and intuition.
Yes.
So talk about that, because I feel like this is also a spot where we are stuck in this moment where we're thinking, okay, I'm ready for change.
Yep.
Everything in me is telling me to change. Maybe you know exactly what you're changing for. Maybe you have no idea. Maybe you, like you said, you know you don't like the flow you're on, right?
Yep.
So then you have fear creep in, right? And you have intuition creep in, and you don't know which way to go.
Yeah.
So give us some advice.
Yes. Okay. So this one I love. I have a lot of fear people that come to me. I feel like that's because my vibration is hope. That's one of my biggest, that's something I learned from my human design. It's my motivation. You can find out cool things like that with your human design. But hope is my motivation. And so I attract a lot of fear-based people that have a hard time deciphering between the two. So if you think about it, intuition and fear are quite similar. It's the same kind of butterfly feeling of like something's about to happen, right? And it could be, my teacher described it in the most beautiful way. That feeling we feel is either saying, be aware, which I would associate with intuition, be aware, or beware, which is fear. And so it's saying, stop, don't turn around, don't go down that dark street. There's danger here. Trying to protect us. It's literally a primal animal instinct. So we have to realize we are okay. We're not going to get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. You know what I mean? That primal instinct can feel so intense, like that fear feels like survival or not. And in some situations, we do need to be careful and safe and cautious. But most of the time we allow fear to enter into situations like, I don't know whether to do this podcast or not. Maybe I don't have anything important to say. And I just let fear debilitate me. And I never share. I never speak my truth. I never connect. And that fear is real for people. They won't go up and ask the girl for their number because they're too afraid of rejection.
You don't want to call and ask for pizza because it's too much attention and too much could go wrong.
Yes. Yeah, there's people that won't call a store and ask if they have something in stock because they're afraid of how the associate's going to handle that phone call. But it's real. I understand. I get it. And for some people, there's different layers of fear. Some people, it's about making an investment. They might lose it all and it might take them into a serious situation. I think the key to deciphering between the two is to really open it up for a conversation. So you're feeling a feeling about something, invite it in for tea. One of my teachers also said that. It was like, with all negative emotions or all emotions that could be negative, invite it in for tea, ask it why it's here. And usually with my fear, it's very clear. It's like, we don't feel good enough. We're not good enough for this situation. We're not prepared enough. So if it's one of those two, if it's not good enough, I know it's fear and I know it's holding me back. So then I say, it's okay. You are good enough. Let's lean into this. You're growing. That's why it's uncomfortable. So I have a conversation with myself. Now my intuition might say, you're not prepared enough. And there might be truth there. So I might go, you're right. I need to kind of study a little bit more. I need to run, maybe this client's chart. Maybe that's where the fear is coming around. I need to make sure I'm prepared for our session. So it's very important we invite the feeling in, and fear gets a really bad rap lately. I think people are like, oh, you're in fear mode. Just let it go. Just move past that. Feel the fear and do it anyway. That's a really popular book. And I think even in that book, they describe how you have a conversation with it. It's trying to keep you safe is what fear is doing. Yeah.
That's really, 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 it's so simple, but also it makes you stop and say, okay, there is really something to be said here about having tea with my fear.
Mm-hmm. Having tea with fear. Yes. Yes.
Okay, now let's go to another big word. So we've talked on gratitude, right? Mm-hmm. That's a big word right now. We've done intuition. Now let's talk about manifesting, right? Which is so important.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is one of the easiest ways to kind of start to get in tune with not the universe, but who you are, what path you're on, if you're in the wrong spot, or if maybe you're in a really good spot and you just want to keep going and you're just, you're saying, okay, these things are happening. They're going into motion. Things I've wanted are happening. I don't know what to do. I don't know when to stop.
Mm,
Well, certainly you can't stop finding that,
yeah.
manifesting what you want. But can you talk a little bit more about that? I mean, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I do think that that's one of the jumping off points where even if you don't know much about, really figuring out who you are within
Yeah.
this whole realm, I think everyone can do that.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like I feel manifesting is a buzzword. It's very
Buzzword.
cute.
That's what I was thinking. Gratitude,
Yeah.
intuition, manifesting, all
Buzzwords.
buzzwords, right?
Yeah. They're really hot, clickbait, right? But for me, we are manifesting consistently nonstop. I could drive downtown. I have an office in downtown, and I can start manifesting to not get a parking spot with my, again, language, my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So manifesting is something you do, whether you have heard of the word ever or not. Everyone is manifesting consistently always. And this is, can't recommend it enough. Abraham Hicks is a beautiful energy to start getting into and listening to. There's plenty of books and YouTubes. Just pop it into YouTube and you'll find plenty of content. But she speaks about this a lot, about how we are consistently manifesting, and the reality you're living in right now was manifested actually probably days ago or weeks ago. So a lot of people get really discouraged with manifesting because they're like, well, I've been thinking good thoughts and saying affirmations all day today, and I still feel fat, or I'm still having people talk mean to me, or my partner's not texting me back, but you're living in a reality you created from a week ago. So the thoughts that you were having, the arguments you had, we have to kind of think about it like the gym. You're working a muscle. You're
Practice.
it's practiced, and you're now reality. So what you're creating now, you're going to benefit in the future. You're creating your future with your now. That's a very popular quote. I don't know who said it originally, but
It
but
gets
yeah.
I feel like it gets overwhelming sometimes for me
Yeah.
too, I mean, what do
Yeah.
I do when there's moments where I'm like, I have to think good thoughts and I can't think good thoughts and I'm not thinking good thoughts and it's not going to happen and something's going to be bad. Like, what do we do in those moments?
Yeah. When you start spiraling.
Yes.
Yeah. Breathe.
Right. You do a lot of breath work,
Truly.
which I feel like is another thing is really
Yeah.
important, right?
Oh, it changed my life. It changed my life. And I try to bring it as much as I can to a lot of things that I do, because we're basically pattern interrupting. So like what Michaela's just saying right there, like you can start saying, oh, what about this? What about that? There's no air to breathe there. We're just motor mouth going on the negative vibe.
Spiraling
So
down.
with breath, instantly you're already oxygenating your brain. So there's a scientific reason breath helps, but also you're breaking your pattern. You're interrupting your pattern. You have to stop for a second to think about your breath. And then you can choose to go right back into your story, or you can start to choose a vibration a little bit higher. Right. And so I love the breath. I do it all the time. I thank you for saying I'm present. That's something I practice all the time. It's just being present here right now, because I have these like almost mini death moments where I'll be with you and I'm off in my head. I'm thinking about things I have to do. I'm thinking about what you just said and what that meant for our relationship. I'll just go off. And for me, the breath always is like, be here now, be here now.
So now
And
with the breath work, is there anything you suggest outside of just like a deep breath? I mean, do you take 2 deep breaths? I mean, what is your
yeah,
like
yeah,
what's just the most basic, okay,
yeah.
I need to do this. What do I do?
Yes. And there are a million teachers
Of
out right
course.
now that have beautiful tactics. But what I love, this is like ultra simple.
That's what we need.
Okay, good. I like to go into the nose because that actually has been shown to calm the nervous system, which is usually where the anxious feeling is coming from. So if you're getting all sweaty and stuff like that, it's your nervous system that's getting spiked. So we want to breathe through the nose. It also makes you go even slower breathing through the nose because we're so used to being a mouth breather usually. So I breathe into the nose and I just visualize the air going up into my nasal passageway and going down my esophagus into my chest, feel my chest rise, feel my belly expand. And I really let my belly fly open, like just let it expand. Like you'd be super embarrassed for anyone to see. And that feels luxurious to me. I always call it a luxurious breath because it's like that permission to just be like, stretch your skin,
Right.
and fill it up. And then I fill it all the way up and I'll hold it for a couple seconds if I feel called. And then I let it out really, really slowly. You can let it out the nose as well, as a really good way to keep it slow and controlled. if I'm really at my breaking point, I'll do about 3 of those. And sometimes I'll start crying after. I'll have reached past the anger and now I'm having the release. So that's when you're really worked up. But the breath really helps unlock the emotions. So yeah, I like to visualize the breath. That's my deal.
So going off of that,
Yeah.
if you, let's say you wake up, even now, you're so in line, you're flowing, you know what you're doing, things are happening for you, right? They're happening. So you're having a day where you're like, things aren't right, things are terrible. What is the first thing you do? Like, what's the basic instinct of like, okay, this is, you take a breath probably, right?
Yeah.
What is that? What does that next step look like for you? Or what do you suggest? What's a good next step for someone?
I think for me, I know how quickly I can go down. I can make a story up really, really quick. I'm really, really good at that. So I can start to attach the negative feeling to someone else in my life, maybe how they're treating me. I can go down really quickly. So I have to nip it in the bud. I love that you like said that. Like, what do you do instantly? And the breath definitely helps just bring me back into the now. And then a lot of times I mother myself with my language. I'll self-soothe. I'll start an affirmation that I always go to. So maybe it's like, you're okay. It's like you're talking to a baby. What would you do to soothe the baby? Because that's essentially what we're feeling.
We are so needy. Like
we are
so needy.
We are.
Like, I have 2 little boys and I'm always complaining and I'm like, I'm needier than they are half the time. They just wanted a bag of goldfish, I need someone to tell me what I'm doing with my life.
Yes. And like give you a hug and play with your hair at the same time. Yeah. Yeah. So, but then another thing that I like to do as well is focus on, find something I'm grateful for in the moment. So, and it takes me out of my diva mode because usually I'm just tripping on someone else, the way they're responding to me or not responding to me. It's usually those kind of things that come up for me now. And they do come up. They totally do.
And that's so beautiful to think what you just said, like in those moments where we're like, what is wrong? Everything is falling apart in my world. Hey, newsflash.
Yes.
It's not all about us.
Yes.
It's really not about my terrible day.
Oh my gosh. You just reminded me of one of the most powerful things we can know, I believe, is when you're experiencing, let's say you're experiencing some conflict or your friend's not replying to you, your partner's ignoring you, or you feel mistreated by someone. It's really important to check yourself. Marianne Williamson taught me this, and it's all about, you're not that important. Like, they have their own shit, their own story, their own day, their own moods. And it's not about me, even though we like to make ourselves the center of the universe. So that one saved my life. Like, I really believe, just reminding myself, Christina, you're not that important. Your partner's not texting you back. It has nothing to do with you. Doesn't mean he wants to leave me. He doesn't love me. I'm not important.
The things we make up.
Yeah.
Because we spiral and because we didn't take a second to, to check ourselves, like you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have a question. We're on this path of least expectance, right? So we kind of connected some dots. Like, if you had never made it to LA, you would have never connected and found, the girl who helped you with astrology, and this whole life would have never fallen into place for you, right? So I love to say, what is your favorite moment in life where you said, aha, that's why that happened? Do you have any of those moments where the dots connect so strongly that you can't help but think, wow, that's why that happened?
Yes.
We all do. So I love to share these experiences.
Yeah, we so all do. And I love that you highlight that because it's a really special moment. And it's really nice if you're waiting to have an aha moment. Yeah.
It'll happen. And then it'll happen again. And then it'll happen again.
Yes.
But to think back, I think after you've had so many of them is when you kind of start, you have to have proof in the pudding sometimes. That's just, we're very needy again as humans, right? So we need to see it before we can believe it, I think sometimes.
Yeah. We have a hard time in the unknown. We really do. And that could be a whole nother conversation, the unknown, but yeah, one of my most favorite ones I have is, now this is going to be a little bit out there, but hopefully this is a safe space to do it.
This is very safe space. If you don't like it, then turn off the audio for a minute and then come back when,
Yeah. No, you're not
our problem.
You're not going to want to miss this. Okay. So,
okay.
Like, hyping it up. No. So I had ran across a friend who had done this and she had manifested her pregnancy. Right. Okay. And I wasn't really interested in that, but I was interested in manifesting my partner, my soulmate,
Right.
my love. And so I used the same tactic that she had taught me. And I started channeling the higher self of my future partner that I didn't know existed, didn't know where he was. I didn't even know what he looked like. I just would start to call upon his soul. And you can do this with your past relatives. If you're intuitive at all or visual at all, you can close your eyes and see someone if you wanted to. I don't think you have to be that spiritual to do that. So this is what I started to do. And I started to develop a kind of a connection where I was getting guidance from this soul that was my soulmate. And I would always say, you know, I feel like I'm really in alignment and I really feel like you're not anywhere to be found. And perhaps there's something, you know, we can always ask our guides and angels and past relatives for guidance. And they need you to ask actually in order for them to help you. It's free will. They can't pass the barrier of free will. So I would ask him, you know, what can I do? What can I do to align with you better? And he would always say, start the business. And the business was the Blonde Priestess that I had been pregnant with for 2 years. I always say I was pregnant with it because I was like, nope, not ready.
So
not
you're
ready.
looking for your soulmate, and yet your soulmate's telling you you're going to
Start
start
the
a
business.
Okay. So you're like, okay.
I was like super upset. I'm like, okay, yeah. I was like, I didn't ask you that question already. You're pissing me off.
But here we go.
This is, it right. Starts now. Yeah. It starts now in spirit. No, but I eventually it just started to click. And I was like, he's telling you this for a reason. You're asking for guidance and you're literally saying that's not the guidance I wanted. So that was like a mini aha moment. And then eventually I started the business pretty, you know, a couple months after these experiences were happening. Started the business, totally didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just was waiting for perfection to happen. That never happens. FYI, PS, never happens. You just have to start.
It would be way too boring anyways.
It would be way too boring. If you go all the way down on my first couple posts on Instagram, I had the brilliant idea to start my business with doing horoscopes based on your shoe. So there was a shoe for each sign.
What a weird connection, because I used to have a shoe store. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay,
yes.
This is great. I didn't know that. How did I miss this?
I'll have to send you. Well, it's way back in the archives, girlfriend.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Connect the dots right here.
Yes. Well, it was in my brain, right? I was like, fashion, my love of fashion and my love of astrology and how it's helped me so much, all of it. So anyway, that evolved very quickly when I realized it wasn't making a lot of sense to other people. And anyway, so what happened about 3 months later, I'm starting the business. I'm really pouring love into it. I'm giving it my all. And me and my partner, who is now my partner of 5 years, he had connected with me on that Instagram.
Okay.
So, and it was just one of those things. He had actually commented, I think, on the Sagittarius shoe post, and he was like, "This is brilliant." And I was like,
"This
is gets me." Yeah. Yeah. And it was, I did not connect the dots until a couple of years ago when I was like, oh my God, I started telling someone who was single about channeling their potential soulmates, you know, soul, and ask them for some guidance. And it really made a lot of sense. I was like, oh my God, I went back and looked at the timeline when we connected, when I started the Instagram, when I started the business was when I started the Instagram. And it was, sure enough, it was like 3 months later. And it's pretty miraculous. So it was such an aha, like just follow the breadcrumbs. Even if they don't make sense, when you question them, you delay it.
And that's my favorite thing about this podcast and just having these conversations with people is just, I guess, reiterating the fact that you have to take these opportunities, because although they don't make sense, if you are on your path and if you're manifesting what you want and if you're going after your dreams and you're putting the work in and you're doing everything that within your power that you know that feels good, things are going to happen along the way, and they're not going to be what you want, but they're going to be what leads you to what you want.
Yes.
And you have to just get out of your own way. Yeah. And that's really, I mean, I say it like it's easy. It's not easy, but it's such, I mean, and if you haven't tried it, try it. And if you don't see results, then come back and yell at me. But I guarantee you, if you put that work in for, and I don't know how long it's going to take, but I guarantee you that things are going to start to play out for you. And you're going to start to see these changes, and you're going to start to connect dots and say, whoa, is that why I was introduced to that person? And is that why I did that side job? Even though when I was doing that side job, I thought this isn't for me. But then you met that one person who then met, it's just those connect the dot moments that are so vital.
Yeah. And I love what you said too. It doesn't always feel easy. It doesn't, because we're so not used to being surrendered. And that's where our relationship with the unknown comes in. But surrendering to these forces that connect us, there's multiple examples in everyone's life about this. So yeah, the surrender, actually, once you get comfortable in that space, it actually feels way more natural than the whole worry, try to navigate my path and pinpoint everything out.
It's not up to you anyways. Don't That's
No.
not your work. That your work is not to figure out how to connect the dots. You're just supposed to move from dot to dot.
Yes.
Something will connect you, right?
Yes.
And sometimes you get a dot that's like, where it's a connected dot with 500 dots, and it's, good luck. But when you finish it, it'll be beautiful.
So intricate. Yeah.
I know. Wow. Look at us.
That's good.
That's good.
I was thinking that should be a quote for you.
Yes, we're gonna
Like the
pull
dot.
it out. Tell me, what's your favorite quote? What's one of your favorites?
That's a good one. I think gosh,
one that you live by. How about that? What's one that you think of daily and you think, okay, this is something I live by?
Yeah, I think the one I shared earlier with like reminding myself that there's other things going on in people's life. It's not that I'm not that important. Like to it's not all about me. That's a mantra that I have for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, that's a really important one for me. And then I think as well, service is always something I'm really big on. I love to serve. I love to serve others. I love to help others. And I love to appreciate others. So I'm always looking for opportunities to appreciate. I think that's like right there with gratitude, appreciation. So probably some version of that, some mantra, some quote along those lines.
We've connected all these dots for you right up until this point. So tell me, with everything you're doing, I really think that, like, we've talked briefly on this, but I feel like you are sensing a bit of a morph in what you're doing, right? A bit of a change using what you've learned to kind of go forward. So what does that look like? What does your business look like? What are you trying? I mean, you don't have to do specifically, but what tools are you using to kind of push forward?
It's so this is like on my edge, right? Sharpening my sword is always something I think we should all do, especially if you are a guide for people. You must be you must be committed to also growing and expanding too. So
that's one of my biggest things, right? I'm sorry to interrupt, but people, you have got to continue your educational journey, and that's the most basic word, educational. But I mean, you've always got to keep growing and keep learning. And if you don't, it's so stale. And I don't know how people don't,
They get comfy. We're humans. I get it. You get comfy. It's kind of working, but it's mostly mediocrity kicks in. And, I've always been someone who's actually the opposite. Sometimes I have to slow myself down a little bit and drink it in and be. But what I'm doing now is I'm working with enlifted coaches, and I'm going to go through their level 1 with Barry and I both, my partner and I both. And it's going to be amazing because I can foresee us working with couples, and he's working on immigrating over here. So I see that expansion.
Seen some posts, and I was like, I know she's not going over there because I know she has a beautiful space downtown, and she's not leaving that. So he must be coming here.
Girlfriend, that island is too small for this little birdie.
He's from Ireland, right?
He's from
Ireland.
Anyone
who doesn't know, beautiful the pictures you post, but he's coming.
Oh, and it is gorgeous. But we both decided it was too small. Too small for us. Great to visit. I'll be there soon. But yeah, so I can foresee us doing a lot of work, male and female combining. A lot of my cacao circles and my full moon and new moon circles are a lot of women, which I love, but I really want us to learn how to be in relationship together in a very healthy way, talking about these type of things. And that's Barry's dream as well. So I think he's going to be a great asset to pulling the men in as well and letting them know they're allowed in these women's circles. There's a place and a time for separation. I do definitely feel that women can feel
right.
Yeah. And there is a time where conversation is just for another woman or just for another man. And you can just speak to each other in a different way, but that's one thing. And then with the enlifted coaches, they work with language tactics. So it's all about stories. So I have a lot of clients that come to me, and I'm really craving these tools that these coaches have that they teach, where a client can be stuck in a story from, maybe they're 45 and this is a story from when they were 15. And right now I use human design and astrology to help guide them back to their truth. But sometimes we need tools around story interruption, pattern interruption, and to get them to just write down your story and then to read it in slow mo and to just do these kind of tactics that really help look at a story and dissect it. And then you get to see it from another perspective. So I'm so lit up to learn
That's so
this tool.
interesting.
Yeah, because it's very common. I mean, how many people do you talk to and they're still complaining about something from that their dad did when they were 7?
Right. And if you've not been able to find a way to get over it, then let's try this. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Yeah. Let's go into the story. It's kind of like sitting with the fear, let's
And
go
I
into
think
the story.
it's really, really beautiful how it's almost like for me, who's, very naive to all of this, but what you're saying about you and your partner working together, it's almost like couples therapy.
Yeah.
But what a different approach.
Yeah.
It's not about what did you do that I didn't like. It's about who are you and
Yes.
who am I and how do we make this work in a beautiful unison. Whoa, that's a whole nother
dream come true.
Thought about that,
Yeah. Yep. Dream come true. It's education. It's like what we just talked about. And I think you and I are very investigative. So we're like, let's just see a pattern.
Oh, yeah.
Once we bring it to the light, we know how to navigate around it. But when it's in the shadow, it's in the dark, we don't know what we're aiming at. All we know is there's conflict here. So yeah, Barry and I, we really love helping people be better lovers to each other, better friends to each other. And I work a lot with, coaching teams too. So a business will bring me in and have me do all the human design charts for their employees and for the employer.
So cool.
Yeah. So they know, like, stop trying to make this person who's got a 3-hour work output do an 8-hour day. Just have them doing tasks that are less, invasive on their energy and, know how to work with what you got basically, and stop trying to make something fit into, a square, fit into a round peg.
So what's really cool about you two is whatever. We know what you meant, right? So there's 4 kinds of human designs, right?
There's actually 5 types.
There's 5 types. Okay, so tell us the 5 types.
Okay, so generator, manifesting generator. Those 2 are energy types, FYI. The rest are non-energy types. So we've got projector, manifestor, and reflector. Those 3 are non-energy types. That's really important once you start digging in.
So what's really cool is, you can simply, Christina or whoever could tell you from your birthday, your place of birth,
and time,
which one of these 5 you are. And what's great, I think, about, I was looking at your website, and this is the very long-winded here trying to get to this point, but if you don't know where to start, and let's say you're not someone who feels very comfortable calling you up and saying, I'm ready to dive in, tell me everything, you have these videos available on your website that you have sat down and you've gone through each one and said, here's the encompassing
the general
of this of your human design. Now I will say, if that interests you and sparks interest, they really should reach out to you to do more of a deep dive, because it goes so much beyond that one specific, here's your 15-minute video, or however long your videos are. I think they were 15 minutes. But I do really suggest anyone who has any interest in this to maybe just go look at that video and to say, I really think that little bit of a video will spark most people's interest to say, wow, those are traits that I have, and maybe this is something that can help me in my journey on my path.
Yeah. It's going to be perfect for anyone that feels like they're making decisions from a place that's disempowered, or they have a hard time making decisions, or just feel out of alignment. If you have any of those kind of symptoms of like frustration, anger, bitterness, or disappointment, the likelihood of you being out of alignment is very, very high. So that, this system is super duper practical. So even from like a 1-hour session, I'll have people who they'll leave a whole different person. You can see even during the reading. I get to do in-person readings now. So I have the office in Wilmington, and then I do them virtually as well, but you can just feel and see them shifted. You can just feel them a little bit more at ease in their body. And it's really just building trust back with the body and letting it know and returning the authority to its rightful place in your body, instead of maybe where you were conditioned by the world or your parents to make decisions from. And there's a million examples for that. But I love helping people break down their conditioning and remember their truth.
And that word is something that I had never really heard of until I started listening to some more of the human design, different, podcasts and stuff. And that conditioning, it's crazy. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Which is, at first, I thought it was bad. I'm like, oh gosh, what have I been conditioned to do? What have I been told what have I been doing wrong my whole life,
Yeah.
What have I been covering up because I thought it was the right thing to do? But it really is really cool to sit down and start thinking, okay, I'm doing this and I don't feel good doing, because this is, I don't know, you tell me. Conditioning, I feel like, are those moments where you're doing something, you don't feel it's right, and you're like, why doesn't this feel right? And you say, why do I feel like I need to do this?
Yes.
And you break it away, right?
Yes. Yeah. You said that in like a really practical, beautiful
terms,
way. Yeah.
But I do feel like that's helped me some, there's some things I've thought, why am I doing this? It doesn't feel good. And that conditioning, that word kind of helped me and bring clarity to me on some of these choices I was making. And nobody even had to tell me what I was conditioned. It's just,
Even the questioning though is such awareness. I mean, it's so beautiful. Yeah. Because a lot of times we don't know how to question, or, it's, but when you start questioning, and yes, conditioning is definitely a story that doesn't belong to you, that's gotten passed down to you. And it's how you're operating your life from. And, it's the same way your conditioning is grooming, essentially. And so there's certain conditioning that's very helpful and helps us move and operate in this society and know how to be appropriate in the world and actually have success. But there's other conditioning that just gets us further and further from our truth. And exactly, you start to come to terms. And a lot of times we see this in, moving out of high school, 20-year-olds, they start to go completely opposite because they're desperate to break away from a lot of their parents' conditioning. But oftentimes they lose themselves in that deconditioning process where they've gone to the extreme and they start just becoming whoever's peers that's around them. So yeah, I definitely, and me and my mom talk about this a lot. I love like parenting with human design. And there are people that do that. I have a few clients that have had babies recently that had me do their human design for their baby.
We talked about it with my oldest because he's such an emotional being. And I thought, wow, maybe if I could understand a little bit more about that, maybe I could approach some of these things. He's such an old soul. And so no, I think you're right. That's just a whole new level of what you can bring. And your baby you can bring into this world. So, okay, where do we find you? Where are we going to get connected, and where are we going to start changing our lives? BlondePriestess.com, is that right?
Yep, BlondePriestess.com. I'm really active on Instagram at the Blonde Priestess.
Follow her. She is roller skating, sharing this energy. She's got quotes. She's got videos. You've got to... And if you are local to the Wilmington, North Carolina, or in the surrounding areas, you are always doing really great events. And
yes. Yeah. I pop up a lot with little farmers markets too. I actually do private parties, which is where we met.
We did.
Which is really exciting.
Well, now, do you know that I knew you from back before you went to LA?
Because I shopped at Hallelujah.
You did shop at Hallelujah. And here's, I don't want you to get emotional, and I'll get emotional, and I don't want anybody to get emotional, but... So what I love about you and your journey and your path of least expectance is I remember you coming into Hallelujah and shopping, and you were the cutest thing. And I was like, oh, she's got the best style. She buys the cutest things. But I could always tell you were inward. And I always thought, what? I would try to have conversations. And I don't know why I remember this with you, because I saw hundreds of people when I was there. But I remember you. And I remember thinking, what is it? Why is she not more confident? And I don't know if that's the best word, because you were confident and you were beautiful and you like exuded, you exuded energy, but it was like an energy that I could never figure out.
You nailed it.
And then you went, I think we were friends maybe on Facebook. I didn't follow much, but I remember seeing you went to LA and I thought, oh, that's great. She's so into fashion. She's going to thrive, right?
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, hopefully she finds herself.
Yeah.
And then you came back to Wilmington and you enter a room. And I mean, everybody better just like move aside, because you're here. And that is so beautiful.
Thank you for that reflection. Yeah, that's so true. I was trapped by myself. I was really my worst enemy. And I just through all that judgment, people couldn't even see me, or, I didn't even feel seen. But the funny thing was, and my mom would reflect this to me, and I always trust her, she's my go-to for advice. But what you just said, that you're beautiful. People see you, you have a presence. And it was just like, I couldn't accept it. You can't,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to accept love when you don't love yourself. So
Right.
it was totally a good place for me to go to get that awakening. And I love your reflection because I knew others could see it, that
Mm-hmm.
insecurity of not being good enough. But you know,
And maybe it was just me being intuitive. You know what I mean? Maybe it was just me
you're
reading you.
but you are super intuitive and investigative, and
Right.
yeah, you pick up on all the vibes.
But the point is just, I mean, I think finding that what you do and when you do find it and the energy that you can
Yeah.
bring when you are so happy with yourself and what you're
Mm,
doing and you're on this right
mm,
path. And so that's why I really tell people,
yeah.
just keep seeking it because when you find it and you know what's right, it's just going to be so life changing. And I'm
Hmm.
not even trying to be cheesy or corny, but it's just that feeling you get and you're able
Yeah.
to give others. It's just, there's nothing like it. And we're always
Yeah.
working. We're never going to say, okay, we're here.
No.
Let's go. I mean, it's never a
Yes.
end all be all, but just once you're
Yeah.
on that flow of what we were talking about,
Yep.
it's really beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, honey. Thank you so much. I totally agree. I'm like, the more people that can feel confident sooner or feel love sooner is like dream come true for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if like, and also if anyone wants to reach out and share stories with me or whatever, I'm happy to help guide in that way too. So,
Yes. You're
yeah.
so welcoming and you're so loving, and I
Mm,
can't wait for everyone else to
mm.
experience you. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, thank you, baby. Thank you
And I will
guys.
see you soon.
All right.